Right, it is time for the last 5 films I've seen, or 5 of the last films that I've seen. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be my second in my series of talking about films that I've seen recently but haven't talked about. I noticed that there were 25 movies that I had seen in the recent past, and so I decided I'm going to do a series of videos where I talk about them, and I'm going to do it totally randomly. I put all 25 titles on a spinner, I have pulled the posters, and I am going to spin the wheel and we are going to talk about them. So I have already done one of these videos, which I will link up above for you to check out. And yeah, and I'm just going to pick another 5, and these are going to be messy and imperfect, and some of the films I will have almost nothing to say about. Some of the films I will have lots to say about. It could be any genre, any time period, anything. It's gonna be random, so let's do as random does and spin the wheel. Here we go. First up. Ooh, The Monster Maker from 1944. Okay, so this one is, the reason I watched it is I'm working my way through this 50 horror collection as one of my bonus challenges to myself of watching all of the films that I own. I definitely feel like I have seen enough from this collection that I've gotten the value from it, so that's why it's sort of like a bonus goal. So The Monster Maker, geez, now I've watched a fair amount on this, so it is a little hard, wow, even from that cover. Honestly, I don't remember this one. It says it's with J. Carrol Naish, Ralph Morgan, Talib Burrell, and Wanda McKay. A mad scientist injects his enemies with an acromegaly virus, causing them to be hideously deformed. To be honest, I can't remember this one from some of the other films that I've seen, but I know that there was one film I saw that had pretty, it could be this one, it might not be this one, that had a pretty amazing futuristic, like way that people, like holographic telephone situation of scientists talking to each other. And so there was like sort of like there was like holographic heads, and they were talking to each other, and I think the Monster Maker was on the phone call, and he was not very well respected by his peers. Okay, we just got to move forward because I don't remember that one well enough. I am sorry. I said this would be random and messy, right? Ah, Relic. I talked about Relic in the previous video. Maybe I should actually take off the ones I've already talked about. Fiddler on the Roof. We cannot get more distant from those two movies. Okay, so this is a very, very well-known film, and I saw this. Which were the things? So I'm watching films for different Oscar winner categories, and this won the best Oscar for cinematography, not best Oscar, it won the Oscar for cinematography, score, and sound. Those are 3 of the 5 categories that I'm following this year. So cinematography, sound, and score. I was actually a little surprised that I hadn't seen this before. It's a 1970s Norman Jewison film, and he also did Jesus Christ Superstar, and which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And this was, it was emotional. It is a marathon. It is 3 hours, if not longer. I watched it on Hoopla, and I watched it because Hoopla said it was going off of Hoopla, but then it didn't. So I was like, what? So I was a little not happy about that. I don't have too much to say about this one. It's a musical, so there's musical numbers. There were some that were very familiar. Even there was one that I was like, oh my gosh, that actually is a total, the If I Were a Rich Man. I was like, I actually know that song because of the Gwen Stefani song, If I Were a Rich Girl. It's the same song. I had no idea it was a reinterpretation of the song. This is an emotional, like deep feels kind of movie, and there were lots of romantic but a lot of it was about it's weird because I felt like so much of the story is about setting up the daughters of the protagonist in relationships, into marriages, and wanting them to be good matches. But then there's a whole other piece about, displacement and when or if to do something, when or if to endure things, when or if to fight back. So it's got these really heavy things, along with the sort of lighthearted-ish story of setting up the daughters. So it's a really interesting combination, but it's got all the feels. Like it really is. It really, if I had a those films list, like my those books list, yeah, Fiddler on the Roof makes it. I am glad that I saw it, but it is a long one. I think it's 3 hours. Might be longer. Okay. Rush Hour. Okay. I told you we're just going from film to film to film. Rush Hour is, okay. So this stars Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. It is an action movie from the late 90s. The reason I watched it is because I'm watching films that won the Taurus Stunt Award for Best Fight and the Taurus Stunt Award for Best Stunt Performed by a Stunt Woman. And Rush Hour didn't win, but Rush Hour 2 did. Actually, Rush Hour might be before the Stunt Awards started. I think they did, because they started... Gladiator is on their first year, which was 2000, and this is 98. So there you go. Maybe they would have won a stunt award if it was a Taurus Stunt Award, if it was up and running then. So yeah, so this is one of my spots of film watching that I just haven't seen that much in. I've seen Jackie Chan in tons of stuff, but I hadn't seen this one. This one follows, Jackie Chan is a Hong Kong police officer who comes to the States to help investigate, help an FBI investigation into a diplomat's missing or kidnapped daughter. Chris Tucker is a police officer who the FBI assigns to Jackie Chan to just keep him out of the way of things. But of course, it's a sort of buddy cop movie, so they work together kind of resistedly to try and, solve the case. It is definitely a comedy, though. Like, that is well, it's an action, it's also got Jackie Chan, so there's obviously action. So it is an action comedy buddy cop movie, which is interesting that I hadn't seen it, because that is something that I do tend to enjoy. But there also is a lot, given that, that it's now 3 years ago, there is a fair amount of commentary that wouldn't fly anymore, or jokes. Comedy does not age well. But yeah, anyway, I watched this on the day after my second COVID shot. I was a wreck. I was a total wreck. I was just feeling horrible. So this was actually perfect, because it was different enough that because I hadn't seen it, but it was similar enough to so many things that I had seen that it was just sort of like right movie, right time. It's also available on Netflix, and I do want to see the other Rush Hour movies. I think at least number 2 is part of the films I'm trying to see this year. So it was a prerequisite, and yeah, and I watched it. Let me know if you've seen it. Sometimes when you see, especially comedies after the fact, I'm not the biggest comedy fan anyway, but I do like action comedy, so I have no idea if I will continue, if I will like the other Rush Hour movies. I just know it's one of my goals to watch at least Rush Hour 2, so we shall see how things go. All right, next movie. The Monster Maker, again, I guess I actually am going to have to remove some after this one. Snow Beast. Oh, yay. Okay, so Snow Beast is another film that I'm watching from the 20 film collection. Most of these are public domain. If they are public domain, I will leave a link to them down below so that you can watch them. Snow Beast is on here, right? Oh, I do not see it in alphabetical order. You know what? It was probably the last one on my science fiction. I have a science fiction set that I finished 100% finally after, I got it in 2013 or something. Okay, so Snow Beast was part of that. Now, I am going to show you, this is the cover for Snow Beast. This has nothing, this feels nothing like the film. What feels like the film are some of these photos I will share from it. So this is what the film looks like. It's from the 70s. It is This is really what it feels like. It's mostly set outdoors on, imagine the plot of Jaws, but on a snow resort. So all of the concerns that they have in Jaws about, keeping the beach open and tourist season and that kind of stuff, just imagine it, but on a mountain of snow and very 70s. It was actually, to be honest, quite delightful. So it does follow like a lot of monster movie type stuff, but I would actually say the monster parts to me were not as present as they are in a lot of films. Although a lot of monster movies, there isn't a lot of like time when you actually see the monster and stuff like that. It's more mystery and anticipation and fear and not knowing and that kind of stuff. But for me, I actually really appreciated a lot of the drama in this one. It had a lot of very developed and this isn't the right word, but like reasonable, like adult relationships. Like there's like the guy that's running a woman, an older woman owns the, what's it called? What's it called? Like resort, the ski resort. I guess it's sort of like a ski resort. And her son or grandson is helping out, and his ex is married to this ski guy, and and the ski guy and the guy who's helping out with the resort were friends, and stuff like that. So there was actually a lot of sort of like relationship drama, but it was quite nice to see actually very healthy, resolving adult relationships. Yeah, so I really appreciated that. I spent almost this entire movie working on one of my sweaters because I had pulled, I had gotten one of the loose, I can't remember, what's it called? I had missed a stitch at some point. So I spent the vast majority of this movie fixing a sweater because I had missed a stitch, like a good, I don't know, like rows and rows and rows and rows and rows. So I fixed that for most of this movie, and I remember that. But this was actually quite wonderful. It's also like, and as opposed to a lot of the films in these collections that are public domain, which are mostly sort of more 30s to 50s. This is actually from the 70s, and I'm not sure why it's public domain, but it is public domain, and it was fun. I had a great time watching it. I think it was the last one I saw from my science fiction set, which was a nice way to finish that off, and then I started working on the horror set. Okay, let's see what is going to be film number 5, Snow Beast. I recommend it. Or I enjoyed it. I don't know. It's still not a great movie. Okay, Embrace the Vampire. Wow. Okay, so this was another movie that I watched because Hoopla said it was going off of Hoopla, and so I was like, okay, that looks like a sort of like cheesy vampire movie. Oh my god, I did not know what I was getting myself into. So this is because I like vampire movies, but this is with Alyssa Milano, and I think it's on, like, you can just read what the list it ended up on when I looked for it. So yeah, this is really racy, and it's very, very explicit at the beginning, and I was like, what? Like, I can watch this, like, I can rent this movie, like, from, like, a regular service? Like, what am I watching? It was very explicit. And then it falls into a pattern of, Alyssa Milano plays a young college student, and who's very chaste, but in a relationship, and then there's a vampire, and then there's lots of less chaste things. But it's weird because in a way I'm like, there is something really in this, but there's also like, this is just really, like, not really what you would, I don't know what to say. I don't, like, it's just soft core, like, really, that's really what it feels like, as opposed to being a vampire movie or other things. It was just like, whoa. But there were some scenes I was like, oh, like, there were some things that it did differently. It was also from the 90s. I think it's like the late 90s too. Yeah, The Innocence Is Over. So it's like not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I can imagine that this could have been a good sort of gateway kind of film, and I think it was. I think it's sort of like the first of a sort of a type of movie, and there is some interesting like female stuff going on in this one, and it's the consent is a little like but it also was 25 years ago, and so I think it was, and it also is a film as opposed to real. So yeah, I was very surprised. I was when I looked up reviews after, I'm like, what did I just watch? Like, what did I just watch? And it turns out that what I watched was what I thought. Just what it was that it was this combination, and it was something that sort of, you know, a lot of films sort of went this direction later. So yeah, but I guess it's something that would have been, I don't remember if it was in the theater, but it definitely feels like it would be direct to DVD and in the back or behind the counter kind of situation, or behind the curtain, you know. And yeah, so, but I watched it on Hoopla because it was available, and I was like, looks like a vampire movie. You never know what you're gonna get. So anyway, so that's a little bit about another 5 movies that I have seen. I hope you are enjoying these videos. I think I will at this point reduce the number on the spinner just so we don't have as many repeats. Yeah, another 5 films are coming soon. Let me know your thoughts if you have seen any of these or if you are now interested in them, and I will be back soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching.